Well, with me now is Fred Weiss. He's a US attorney and a writer. Thank you for being with us. If you listened to that report from Naomi, you'd have thought, and listened to what people were saying, you'd have thought this is about race pure and simple. Is that right, do you think?
Well, I think the racial aspects are very important. I mean, Trayvon Martin was targeted by Mr. Zimmerman because he was a young black man with a hoodie in Florida. Mr. Zimmerman was a civilian watch participant. He called the police and said he saw a suspicious person. They said, don't do anything, we're coming, just stay away. He pursued him, and he basically did a citizen intervention, the full facts of which are not so clear to us. They wound up tussling on the ground, and today we're mourning the loss of Trayvon Martin at a time when Mr. Zimmerman is leaving free. But the greater issue...
Because a court has ruled that he should be free.
Because the court has ruled, and in the American system of law, we defer to the jury trial. The jury is sacrosanct in America, and he has been found to be not guilty. What I find interesting, both reading many of the British papers and following much of the British coverage, has been that they have not really focused on what I consider to be a more troubling issue, which is the stand your ground legislation. Stand your ground legislation basically stands...
This is only in Florida, by the way.
No, it's not. 16 states in the United States.
Okay.
16 states in the United States, many of which are in the South, have passed this law, and in many ways the law was changed or passed at the influence of private interest groups who submitted legislation to the state legislature in Florida. They passed the legislation.
So what does this stand your ground law say?
I will tell you. When I was in law school, and for hundreds of years of British and American jurisprudence, the system was for self-defense, to invoke a defense of self-defense. You had to have no way out. You had an obligation that if you were under attack, if you could get away safely, if you could retreat, you had an obligation to retreat before you could use deadly force. Stand your ground puts that on its head, and it turns America into a Wild West society, a shoot-first society. Because even though the statute says you have to have a reasonable justification for using violence, if you are attacked or you claim you're attacked and you subjectively felt under threat, as Mr. Zimmerman claimed he felt under threat even though he was the initial pursuer. If you claim you're under threat, you can shoot someone and then when you're arrested say, I had the right to stand my ground. Stand my ground means you don't have to retreat.
So if, as it's clearly your opinion that this law needs looking at, that it is in fact unjust and can lead, in your opinion, to these kinds of results, what can the federal government do, if anything, about this? I mean, there's talk about the Justice Department getting involved.
I think the Justice Department has certain remedies. They can claim civil rights violation. The president can make this...
That would be to bring race again to the fore.
Well, I think you cannot totally dismiss race because of the nature of what happened, George.
Okay.
But I think what the president can do and all the protesters can do is say, as a tribute to this lost life, he was only 17 years old, he hadn't even lived. I mean, he was just coming with Sizzlers and a soft drink, which you all have the right to do, and bring it home to watch, I think, the Super Bowl. You don't expect to die if you go out of your house for a soft drink. I think the president can appeal to the nation, to the legislatures, to throw off the yoke of special interests, because this was a special interest legislation to support gun owners and gun rights, and say it is not acceptable that if your child goes trick-or-treating on Halloween and bangs on the wrong door, that someone can claim that their life is in danger and shoot that child.
Hang on a minute. You know, you're going to be accused of trivializing this, talking about trick-and-treat and kids.
Well, I don't mean to trivialize it, but I will say this. A more possible thing is a fender bender on a highway. Two people have a fender bender. We've all had them. Words are exchanged every day. You have hundreds, thousands. But with the Stand Your Ground law, if one of the people, even the person who caused the accident, who made the first aggressive response, felt that the person came after them aggressively, claimed he felt threatened and pulls out a gun, he could then invoke a Stand Your Ground defense. And that is why I believe that the Stand Your Ground law is so pernicious, turns America very much into a Wild West society, and that the greatest thing America can do now is fight the lobbyists, rescind these laws.
Fred Weiss, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on the program.
All right. Thank you. Now, in other news, more than 5,700 people are still missing after the floods which ravaged